Alright, so what brought you out here today?
So we seen that it was being advertised on TikTok, so I was interested in it. And we heard about all like the immigrants, stuff like that going on. So we wanted to have like a closer look, see what it's all like and stuff. And what do you have to say?
Well, it was mainly, you obviously see a lot on TikTok, innit? You see like what's going on in like the country. And it was more or less like, you genuinely don't see like a lot of stuff being like produced on like the actual news what you see on TikTok. Like for example, you'd be seeing like crazy stories of like sexual assaults like going up like on the rise, so like young people. And it's like, if you can avoid something from going on, then why isn't like the government doing it? Like one offence can be the difference between someone getting sexually assaulted tomorrow than stopping these obviously people coming in. Another thing as well is that obviously with the whole like people like struggling at the minute with like taxes, like money is like constantly being increased in like shops and everything like that. And like, you know, take for myself for example, like, you know, my mum spends so much money on like food like constantly. You know, you're trying to like, you know, put money towards like your family and kids and stuff, and then you see people coming into like 4 or 5 star hotels and then giving beds, breakfast, phones, you know, food throughout the day. And obviously you still see people struggling on a day-to-day basis, and like nothing's really been done about it. We've seen on like some news that we follow this guy on TikTok, and he always says like, you know, £5 million a day is going into like the immigration sector and like allowing people to come in. Like once you put that into perspective, like a year, that's like what? How much did we work it out as?
Well, we worked it out, so 5 million a day. So you times that by like 365. I'm pretty sure it got to over $1 billion in a year, and that's just and that's not including like them buying the hotels and stuff like that.
So do you agree with the Britain First message of like remigration? The idea that like I should go back to where I came from, anyone who's like an immigrant should slowly go back to where they came from?
Well, what I say is like, so not immigrants from like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years, because like I think that's wrong, because they've been here for so long, they've got used to it, haven't they? But with like people that's been here for, let's say, 7 years, I think they should go back, because you don't know who's in the country. So like, I'm quarter Bengali, so my granddad's Muslim, and when he came over, which was about 40 years ago, he got a visa, and he came over here to work and support like the country and to have a family. And then he had his kids, and then I was born, such as. And then I've had other family from Bangladesh come over to become a doctor, and they've got a visa and study like that. So you know who's coming into the country, but with these people coming in, you just don't know who it is.
So you mean asylum seekers, not like people who have to apply for a visa and get a job? So you have a problem with asylum seekers, not like people who apply to come to the country to work?
It's more like a stigma that people automatically presume you're racist if you think kind of your views on it. But like for take myself and him for example, it's more or less like if people was to come in England legally through the routes of like visas and stuff, you know, so be it. You know, if you want to make a better life out of it, then you can do. But if people are going to come on boats and then the government kind of say, okay, here's everything handed to you, then I don't understand how that's fair when there's obviously people working, and then that money is then going into people who can just come in. And you know, if you're going to label it as, yeah, you get everything for free, more people are going to come. That means that, you know, taxes and absolutely everything's just going to keep going up and up, and where is it going to stop? Do you know what I mean? Like,
okay, I'm going to tell you guys a couple of facts, and then you tell me what you think like after it, right? Okay, so asylum seekers make up 0.7% of the British population, right? Of that percentage of people who are here, of the people who come in small boats, 70% of their applications on human rights grounds are accepted. That means they're fleeing, so you know, like Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria. They leave from there, they come here, some get accepted, some don't, and then they get sent back. Whilst they're here, whilst they're waiting for that application and they're in a hotel or whatnot, they get £50 per week basically to live on. Some of the hotels, you know, some are 3-star, some are 4-star, some are not great at all, where it's like several families cramped in like one room and things like that. And then of the people who do get their application processed, they can start work and so on and so forth. But whilst they're waiting for that application to get processed, they're not allowed to work at all. So they're not even allowed to contribute to the taxpayers and things like that. Does that change or affect how you think about that at all?
Well, it's one of them, you know, if like what you said, if they are contributing, then, you know, it is a good thing, you know. There's always jobs which are needing to be filled, and there's certain things which people can do, and you know, it is a good thing. But I just think that people do need to apply for a visa and go through the normal route, so then they can kind of be vetted on like seeing if they are a security risk. Because if you're just gonna, if people are just gonna come on a boat, not really knowing who they are, then how do we know who we're accepting? You know, these people, for example, people who come from different countries, have perspective on certain things, and kind of like they don't, not necessarily, you know, there might be some people do, but I see it in my eyes is that they don't share the same values as English people, and, you know, they might see something which is fine in their eyes, what we see is completely different and completely wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I get what you're saying there. With that, so the people who come here and arrive here, and some of them don't see the same, you know, values and so on and so forth. If, say, you're from Ukraine and your country's being invaded right now, or if you're from Syria at the time in 2015 and it's being bombed, how would you want them to do like a sort of proper application? Like, how do you? Because if you imagine yourself basically in the war zone, the reason why people take some dangerous routes sometimes is because it's so difficult to be able to like go to like an office or something and sit down and do an application. And then I get what you're saying about vetting. But obviously when people get here, that's when they get vetted, if you like, that's when they get processed. And people who like, you know, they're lying about this one and that one, those are like the 30% of people who end up going back from the small boats. One of the key issues that you've got is a lack of funding for the process in it, so it takes a very, very long time for people to get their applications processed. But then you've also got this other thing. You know, how much do you know about wealth inequality in the UK? Where you have, for example, just 50 families control the same amount of wealth, £500 billion, as half the UK population. That's 33 million people. What do you think about any of that?
So, well, I was actually about to mention that about such as like Ukraine, Palestine, and Israel. So let's say these people. Well, we've had Ukraine coming to here, which I know of. I find that okay, so Israel should be fine to come here, Palestine should be okay to come here, and Ukraine should be fine to come here because they're in such a dangerous place. Like they have no chance of survival basically. It's like 1% chance that they might survive. So I say it's good for them to come here. But then if they've done something bad over there, such as murder or rape or anything like that, then I don't think they deserve to be here and have that chance off. Like,
Do you think people disagree with that?
yeah, people disagree with that, definitely. People agree, people disagree. It's like, everyone has their own opinions, don't they? And I think it should be the vetting, and then when they're here, they should get vetted. And if they're not good, then they get put back.
I think as well, with the whole like Palestine's coming over here, I'm not too sure like the full process of like Palestine and what it is, but I think what really annoyed a lot of English people was when they kind of
That guy on the boat.
No, it was when they were starting to kind of like push it in people's faces too much, to the point where they were vandalising properties, smashing up Barclays banks.
Do you know why they did that?
Because I don't know, I'm not too sure, but
This was supporting Israel, is that right?
Yeah.
And
I don't-
such as McDonald's.
I don't think that people should be forced to like something over another. And fair enough, if it's a large corporation and it's a business, they shouldn't. If it was me running a business, I probably wouldn't say anything or choose not to comment. But I don't think that violence is the answer. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, if people see that firsthand on media and like news and stuff, that's going to aggravate a lot of people, regardless if they do their research or not. It's always the title, you know, Palestinians smashing up Barclays banks all across the UK. That's all what people see. A lot of people don't go in depth to go research, you know, the actual like reasonings as to it. But I don't know. It's one of them, like, if you're going to go smash buildings up and vandalise things, and a lot of the times as well, what we see on social media is like Palestine's saying free Palestine and trying to get celebrities to kind of like put a response out and say like, I support Palestine, but, you know, and if you don't say that, then you kind of, what's the word?
So you don't agree with people basically being shut down if they don't agree
Yeah.
with that kind of thing.
Like-
But do you think more people would agree if they knew why people were smashing up those buildings? I.e., take for example Barclays, right? Barclays underwrites billions of pounds worth of money for 9 defence companies that support what the Israeli government is doing. That's been described by the International Court of Justice lawyers, by 800 British lawyers here, by several institutions, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, as a form of genocide, where 18,000 children have been killed, where everything that the Israeli government does to the Palestinians, it's also doing to the Israeli hostages too. And that's why some people think that the best way to disrupt that, because they see that as illegal, and if the government's doing something illegal, then they want to stop the government doing that illegal thing. But I get what you're saying. Is there anything else that you want to tell people who might not understand why it is that young people would be at a Britain First rally, or might be upset or angry about immigration?
Well, to be fair, most young people, if they would have came, I reckon that they would have started fights. Like, most young people would just look for action to start something on someone for no reason, such as when that massive protest was going on with, with Palestine and police and people. It was so bad that, it was mostly young people just causing chaos. So it was good that not so many young people were there, to be fair, which was good. But I think it was good today. I'm glad it happened. It needed to be said.
Yeah, I just think that, I don't know, it's one of them, like, if the government put a proper procedure in place to help, like, countries, like, say, Palestine and Ukraine and whatnot, then I don't think a massive, like, outburst would have happened. I just think, I personally think that it's been handled incorrectly, and kind of what you see on media is what you see. And, you know, you take other countries, for example, and, you know, you do look at them, like, it's a massive issue at the minute. And, you know, you take, for example, you know, America, where they've not had, well, I think I've seen a few days ago, they've had 0 immigrants coming to the country. Whether that's being handled incorrectly, I don't know, that's up to people to decide. But I just think if there's a proper process put into place and people weren't necessarily just coming in, handed everything, and that's obviously my opinion, and I do stick to that, is that there shouldn't be handed things, and the procedure should be kept no matter what. Regardless, whatever's happening in another country, it should stick to the rules and procedures, because, you know, there's so many people who ain't happy in the UK. I know I'd personally love to go to Spain, but I know that I have to go through that procedure of visas and all that shit. I just think that it needs to be kept properly, because...
You think you'd follow the procedure if England was at war, under attack, being bombed, people being killed?
Probably, to be fair, probably not. I would try my best to get into another country. Like, let's say, take Spain for example, but I know that their government wouldn't allow it, and I know that there's probably some sort of procedure in place, and they wouldn't allow it. Like, if I was trying to go to France, you know, there would be a procedure. So people know, like myself, there's no point even trying to go to that place, because I'll just get turned around straight away.
So one of the things that most countries follow is the UN Convention on the Refugee 1951. And it's the idea that if somebody's like under attack or whatnot, they can go and seek asylum in a safe country. Do you think that basically for people who are experiencing war, there should be like safe and legal routes for them to come through?
Yeah, no, definitely. There should be some sort of like law in place to help those people. I just think there's a lot of like stereotype things going on at the minute, and it's obviously annoying a lot of people. What you see on media is what you get, and if it's just going to continue, you know, a lot more people are coming into the country now because of the benefits what people are getting. You know, you might not even be escaping, you know, some sort of war or bad situation. People might just be genuinely coming into the country due to the fact of, you know, the advertised benefits you get. And if I didn't have any money at all, and I was, let's say, in Afghanistan, and, you know, I didn't have anything, and I knew that it was getting advertised, you'll get all this, you know, you'll get food and you'll get somewhere to sleep, I'll be straight on one of those boats, straight to this other country. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there might not be situations going on, you know, fair enough, there might be people who really do need to come over, but then you do get those people also who might just be using those benefits for the better of them, and they might not need to come over. So that's what I'm saying, is that UK needs to put some sort of like legislation or law into place to actually manage it properly, because you don't know who actually needs it, but as opposed to like they might just be coming in just because they want it. So I think it's more or less down to the government to actually put a proper procedure in place to kind of like get it sorted out properly.
Cool. Thanks for chatting.